Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rein and Sarcoma 2021 Winter Gathering. We are excited that you are joining us today. My name is Craig Kuzanen, and I'm the chairperson of the Patient and Family Support Committee for Rein and Sarcoma. I am a two-time osteosarcoma survivor for more than 34 years. It was a year ago that we were gathering at Bachman's and sharing cake and snacks and drinks and connecting with our community. Less than 2 months later, our lives were forever changed as a result of the COVID pandemic. This year we were meeting via Zoom. What a difference a year makes. Our gatherings are mission driven. We share updates on education and research and connecting with our community. I look forward to participating with everyone in the rest of the program. As a reminder, the slides you will see in the program were sent out on Thursday, the 28th by Michelle Kolling. That was titled Rein and Sarcoma, Winter Gathering, Unmasking Hope handout. Please silence your cell phones for the duration of the event. At this time, I would like to introduce Janelle Calhoun. She is the Executive Director of Rein and Sarcoma. She will provide a brief update on the key accomplishments for 2020 and what we have on deck for 2021. Janelle?
Hello, everybody. It is good to be together. There's been a lot of heart and soul put into this winter gathering to keep us all safe. I am Janelle Calhoun, Executive Director. I've been with Rein and Sarcoma in this position for 3 years and 7 months. Just a reminder, our mission statement, we are all about sarcoma education, supporting patients and families, and funding research directed towards treatments and cures for sarcoma. Our board of directors, we've got a couple new additions. Wanted to point out Dr. John Charlson. He is in Milwaukee. We are looking to expand and grow sarcoma education programming in Wisconsin. And Dr. John Charlson is a great friend of Scott Okuno down at Mayo Clinic. He's joined our board along with newcomers, Dr. Stephanie Tarazikas, who's chair of the radiology department now. Katie Dusenberry stepped down. And we also have Erin Halby, Director of Finance at the Health Partners United Health Group. We wanted to express our sincere appreciation for Linda Pomeroy and Dr. Chin-Soo Cho as they are stepping down from the board this year. And wanted to highlight and thank and appreciate our committee chairs. If anyone's curious about joining Rein and Sarcoma as a volunteer, the neural network and the work done with different events and community actions are always done through committees. So we strongly encourage anyone on this call, friends or family, join a committee and help us advance the mission of Rein and Sarcoma. If anybody really enjoys working with people, is a great organizer, wanted to highlight that we do need a chair for our PR and marketing committee. And we'll be working closely with myself, Katie Ingleby, a number of talented people, but just kind of having that central organizer would be incredibly helpful. And Katie Ingleby is new to Rein and Sarcoma. She is helping with mission growth, the electronic medical records best practice alert expansion, working very closely with our education committee, communications. If you've noticed an incredible consistent uptick in our social media, Katie's doing amazing work behind the scenes, making sure that our mission is getting out into the world. Melissa Davies joined us in August. She just jumped right in and got all sorts of things happening with our golf event, with the fall fundraiser. You can see her with Craig packing tote bags and with Julie Mead, Miranda Mead's mom, working on viewing boxes for the fall fundraiser. And again, Melissa brings over 30 years of experience working in development, which is really going to help us move and grow our mission and our organization. We're thrilled and excited to have both Katie and Melissa on board with us. Red Flags, again, expanding into Madison and Milwaukee. If you've got relationships and interactions with those two medical districts, please let us know. We'd really like to build and expand on our work. We also want to highlight the 8th edition of the Patient Education Notebook. It is in editing and will likely go to print in mid to late February. We've got an incredible team led by Dr. Elsa Keeler. A number of our sarcoma scholars are working on that. The Sarcoma Scholar System was developed and put into fruition by Jan Modelin, a sarcoma survivor back in 2009. The program expanded to Mayo Clinic. And this year, David Sapinski, that smiling face in the upper left-hand corner, he is our 50th scholar. The program has incredible impact. I know as they go into practice and go into treatment, they're amazing advocates. It doesn't just stop with their 1 year. So the ripple effects are incredibly strong, and Jan is really excited to get this program into Milwaukee and Madison with us. Hallie Ann Brown in 2016, her family, in honor of Hallie, gave a very generous gift to Rein and Sarcoma, $100,000, which helped us look at technology to faster, more accurately diagnose a soft tissue mass. Dr. Randy Hurley has piloted a pop-up we call the EMR BPA and a number of health partners clinics with promising information. We're looking to expand this to all health partners clinics. Once we get positive data, the goal is to roll it out to all medical systems who use Epic and then go beyond that. So your help, your energy, if any family or friends say, Janelle, or if they talk to you and they're like, we want to do more, we really could use help with patient and family, with education, with PR and marketing. So volunteering hours are really critical, especially with this rolling out. Patient and family support, Craig is our chair, leading the way. We're looking to start planning for the party in the park and family picnic. We do not know if it's going to be virtual or not, but if you've got time and energy, come on board and help us plan. We're so excited about that 8th edition of the notebook. We are still packing tote bags and getting them to Mayo Clinic. Cara Dolny helps with that. Amy Hoban helps with going to the U of M. And we're still part of our peer-to-peer mentor program is also continuing to grow. Tuesdays, second Tuesday of the month, please join. We've got a virtual survivor and patient talking together time, starts at 10. And we also wanted to highlight, as the community, we have funded over $2 million in sarcoma research. At the U of M alone, that's resulted in additional sarcoma research funding of $13.4 million, which is incredible. And this fall, we'll host another researcher symposium, getting students, anyone who'd like to come. We're hoping to grow and expand on what we did last year. So stay tuned to attend an annual sarcoma research symposium. And here's one of our key highlights for today. The board of directors on Monday approved a $50,000 research proposal going to Dr. Jaime Modiano. And he is really looking to understand how sarcoma travels through the blood system. And he is using dog models focusing on osteosarcoma and angiosarcoma. I know Katie will be sending out some more information, but we're incredibly proud of the work for Dr. Modiano is doing to understand why and how these metastases occur. Our name fund families, without them, we would not be able to continue our critical work. Wanted to say thank you to all the patients, families, survivors, and loved ones who participate with the name fund families. They ensure the viability of the mission of Rein and Sarcoma. If you've got questions, if you'd love to become a name fund family, we strongly encourage you, contact Melissa Davies, Development Director here at Rein and Sarcoma. And then party in the park planning, we don't know what it's going to look like per se, but even asking now for silent auction items, we know a silent auction is always fun and exciting. It can be done safely online. So we are even making an ask now. If you knit, if you do woodworking, if you do painting, help us think of things and items to get excited about for a silent auction this summer. We are looking for merchandise support, raffle chair support, auction item, check-in and logistics support. But again, we are just getting things going. Hopefully we'll have a fantastic event, and we're even kind of getting neat ideas like, what if we did a drive-in movie together? That way we could stay socially distant, yet be all together. So help us plan that. And the office line, if you've got questions, 763-205-1467. Don't ever hesitate to give us a call, because there are year-round opportunities and it takes all of us to get things going. So again, thank you to everybody who worked so hard making sure that this year's winter gathering came to fruition. And we are truly, truly grateful for all of our community members who are here today.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa, and I am one of the presenters today. I'm happy to be here. We'd like to begin our program this afternoon with a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh. And Thich Nhat Hanh is a Buddhist spiritual leader known throughout the world for his powerful writings and teachings on mindfulness and peace. He says, if we believe that tomorrow will be better, we can bear a hardship today. So let that sink in for a moment. He says, if we believe that tomorrow will be better, we can bear a hardship today. It's pretty hopeful. And as a sarcoma survivor, I remember vividly experiencing those tough days of sadness and sickness and disappointment and frustration. But I also remember truly believing that the next day is going to be better. And it usually was. Hope is what gave me the strength that I needed to get through those tough days. That was 15 years ago next week. And, you know, it really worked for me. So Michelle and I are going to do our very best to help you unmask hope by way of sharing what sarcoma has taught us, and also by sharing these beautiful pictures of sunflowers throughout our presentation. Traditionally, sunflowers have been a source of nourishment and vitality, and symbolically, sunflowers represent strength, wisdom, and hope. And who can't look at a sunflower and not smile? Rein and Sarcoma adopted the sunflower as our symbol of hope because everyone touched by sarcoma brings a new level of energy and hope to our precious community. Support, caring, and community are a powerful mix. And, you know, it really does define who Rein and Sarcoma is. So we are so glad that you're taking the time out of your day today to join us for our winter gathering. Welcome to Unmasking Hope, Embracing Sarcoma as a Teacher. Thanks. Michelle?
Before we dive into the lessons, I want to take a few moments and acknowledge our connection to each other, even though we can't be in the same physical space this year. Connection is the most important part of our annual winter gathering. So today, I'd like you all to join me in a short connection ritual. So close your eyes. Let's take a few deep breaths together. As you take a deep breath in, find that place of connection inside you. Take one more deep breath in. Imagine that place of connection is a bright light. Take on your next deep breath in. Imagine that light connecting with everyone on this Zoom call today. Now take one last deep breath and open your eyes. As you do, I'm going to light this candle as a physical representation of that light of connection. If I invite you to light your candle too, if you brought one with you. And we're going to keep these candles burning throughout the whole rest of our time together today. Thank you. Now, Lisa, let's introduce ourselves.
Great, thanks, Michelle. My name is Lisa Griebel, and I have volunteered with Rein and Sarcoma since 2007. And my sarcoma journey started when I was diagnosed with fibrosarcoma in February, actually February 7th, my birthday, in 2006. And I went through 5 weeks of radiation and 3 surgeries later, and then I started my path to full recovery. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a 15-year sarcoma survivor, and I am so honored to be able to be here with you today to share some of my story. And my sarcoma journey really has brought out the best in me. And for that, I will always be grateful. Michelle?
Thanks, Lisa. I am Michelle Kolling, and I have volunteered with Rein and Sarcoma since sometime in 2011. And I call myself the other kind of survivor. I survived the loss of my husband to Ewing sarcoma. In the 10 years since his passing, I've had to struggle with how my sarcoma story changed my identity. Through the process of grief, I learned that I needed to let go of the story and confront fear to truly transform and grow beyond it. I am not my sarcoma story, but I gratefully embrace it as part of my life story. And it has led me to who I am today. Lisa and I are here today not as experts of any kind, but rather as Rein and Sarcoma volunteers, honored to share some of the lessons we've learned, as we have found that actively living these lessons opens our hearts to hope. It's also our hope that you might be willing to share lessons you've learned along your sarcoma journey. Today, we would like to explore what sarcoma has done for us instead of what it has done to us.
So when Michelle and I first connected to discuss today's winter gathering, it didn't take us long to identify common threads in our sarcoma stories. And while our stories are certainly different, we discovered that years after we first heard the word sarcoma cancer, we agreed that our sarcoma journeys taught us how to be hopeful, how to be true to ourselves, and how to be grateful for what sarcoma has taught us. So for the next few minutes, we would like to share some of those sarcoma lessons that we've learned along our journeys. And after we've gone through this list, we're going to have invite you to share some of the lessons that you've learned when we break into small groups. So as we walk through this list of sarcoma lessons learned, please make note of any of these that might resonate with you. And, or, you know, the other thing that might happen is they may trigger some thoughts of your own and in terms of lessons that you've learned. And we welcome you sharing those with us. So the first lesson, which is slow down, be patient, and breathe, led me to the second lesson, which is to be present and open to possibilities. So let me explain. Receiving a sarcoma diagnosis is unsettling and it's incredibly stressful. And during my year of cancer treatments, I discovered that actually slowing down both physically and mentally, it allowed me the time and space I needed to become more patient with myself and with others. And clearly I was doing something right, because I so remember my family commenting on how relaxed and peaceful and calm I was. And of course, I attribute that calm to the deep breathing techniques that I was learning in my yoga classes. But a side benefit for me of the first lesson leads to the second lesson. By slowing down and being patient and breathing, I learned to be fully present wherever I was and with whomever I was with. So much for wearing the multitasking as a badge of courage, because, just wasn't going to happen anymore. Being present helped to declutter my mind, and it opened my heart to new possibilities, more opportunities. Sarcoma also taught me to believe in my strength and resilience, which is the third lesson on our list here. 15 years later, when I face difficult challenges, I remind myself that the strength and resilience that I have today was developed from my past challenges, including the sarcoma cancer. So if I could make it through that sarcoma experience, I feel like I have the confidence and the capacity to make it through most anything. Michelle?
The first lesson I want to talk about is to challenge fear. Be curious. Now, obviously, the subject of fear is way too big to cover here. Entire books have been written about it, lots of them. And equally obvious is that a sarcoma diagnosis brings with it a tremendous amount of fear. So for today, the lesson is that fear is not necessarily a bad thing. It's uncomfortable, and we don't like being uncomfortable, so we avoid it. And in doing so, we have become afraid of fear. Fear is natural. It's our body's early warning system, but we're not very good at discerning what the warnings are for anymore. The root of most emotions deemed negative is fear. A typical response is to shove it down and in order not to feel it. I learned to get curious about it. When a less than positive emotion arises, I notice it. I take a breath. I let myself feel it. What is it trying to tell me? Is it real, or is it something else in disguise? When we don't feel our pain, we offload it onto others. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's fear. And if you have a fear of fear, you're missing out on a lot of love. The next lesson I want to talk about is don't should on yourself or others. When someone's talking to you and starts a sentence with "you should," does it ever feel good? And how much do we say that to ourselves? We say it so easily and unconsciously all the time, and it feels like a judgment or a failing. Start noticing. Catch the shoulds when they arise. And again, be curious. Where is that coming from? Shine a light on it and see where it leads. It seems like a small thing, but it really matters. Stand up for yourself and become immune to shoulds. The next lesson is to live from the heart rather than the head. Have you heard the term monkey mind? We all have it. The thoughts that endlessly bombard us, the storytelling, the ruminating, the inability to turn them off. It seems the thoughts even have thoughts, and those thoughts have thoughts. It's fuel for anxiety, and it blocks us from hearing the only voice that really matters, the one that comes from the heart. The reality is that thoughts are not real. They're just thoughts. They're doing their job, and their job is to cause suffering. The true voice, the voice of inspiration and intuition, the voice of our own knowing, comes from the heart. And it whispers, it doesn't scream. So in order to hear it, you need to calm the monkey mind. Invest in yourself by learning how, and make it a practice. The next lesson is about the intelligence of our physical bodies. I learned this lesson from grief. Obviously, grief is an emotional journey, but what surprised me is how much of grief is physical. I learned that my body knew how to grieve, and if I surrendered to it, it would show me how. The sensation of an emotion is felt in the body first, and the awareness of that emotion follows. Our bodies are super intelligent and always trying to tell us something. Learn to nurture yourself by listening to what the body is trying to tell you and give it what it needs. The next lesson is to recognize what is really important and what isn't. I remember connecting with this lesson pretty early on when Brett was sick, but it took me a while to make a shift in my life. Time and energy are limited resources, and I realized that what I was spending it on wasn't important to me. Oftentimes it was what was important to someone else. Visualize a snow globe. Shake it up. You can see all the snow swirling and swirling. Now imagine that snow is all of the stuff in your life, all of the to-do lists and the tasks and the schedules and the friends and the family and the acquaintances and the chores and obligations and all the busyness and all the thoughts that go along with all of those things. And now visualize the snow slowly falling to the bottom of the globe. What was hiding is now visible. That's the important stuff. And that's likely what most aligns with your values. Spend your time and energy on those things. My next lesson is about attachments and the stories that come with them. And I'm going to go a little deeper into that later, so stay tuned. Now let's go back to Lisa to share some more lessons.
Thanks, Michelle. So as a self-proclaimed highly independent person with, I don't know, a little control freak tendencies, being vulnerable to me by asking other people for help was nearly impossible until I had no choice. So slowly but surely, I realized that not only was asking for help beneficial for me, but it was also beneficial for others. People really want to help other people. It makes us feel better about ourselves. It makes us feel like we're making a difference in the world. Michelle and I both agreed that the next lesson, love and be loved unconditionally, was a lesson that we both shared, and we both thought was probably, of all of these, the most important, because love and be loved unconditionally begins with loving ourselves, and the love that we give and the love we receive from ourselves and our family, and of course our pets, goes a long way to jumpstarting the healing process. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to share a little bit more about my sarcoma story, which is going to address the last two lessons on this list. Never forget and always remember that time heals, and let go and make room for abundance. So when Michelle invited me to partner with her on this presentation, I was really excited. But then I quickly realized that, it's been 15 years since I was diagnosed and went through all my treatments. 15 years is a really, really long time. And there have been so many wonderful things that have happened since. So much so that I needed to go back to find my journal so that I could get a refresh of all that went on during my year of cancer. That's when I ran across the 2006 holiday letter that I sent to my family and friends and colleagues that year. And as I reread that letter, I realized that I really had forgotten to remember that time heals. And so that was a really significant learning for me. So much so I'd like to reread that letter to you just so that you can get a sense of what went on in my year. Greetings, dear friends. If anyone would have told me a year ago that in 2006 I would be diagnosed with cancer, undergo a month of radiation therapy and have 3 different surgeries, not work for 2 months, go to India, visit the Taj Mahal, meet with influential leaders of the Tibetan government, and be overflowing with work, happiness, and good health by the end of the year, I would never have believed them. And yet, that pretty much sums up 2006. Needless to say, it's been an interesting year filled with so many incredible experiences and opportunities. I'm frequently asked, what, if anything, did I learn this year? And my response is a lot. The most important lesson for me was learning to let go and trust that everything will work out. Being self-employed, this is a really hard lesson because the to-do list is pretty simple. Find work, get work, do work, rinse and repeat. Cancer treatments quickly reprioritize that list. But once I finally got it, let go and actually listen to the doctors about taking time to heal, I was much more open to new and different opportunities, and I was filled with abundance. In so many ways, I consider 2006 to be one of my best lived years. I am blessed with good health, a loving family, supportive friends, challenging work, and great clients. I mean, what could be better? So during this holiday season, I encourage you to pause for a moment to reflect on the blessings you have. Let go of all the clutter and trust that good things will happen. Abundance is waiting. I wish you a happy and healthy 2007. Warm holiday greetings. Love, Lisa. So any fear or anxiety that I felt at that time has long since been replaced with strength and resilience and compassion. My life continues to be filled with abundance because of all of the lessons that I learned, and I'm really grateful. And as for the decluttering, well, you better believe that it's on my 2021 to-do list this year. So Michelle and I have just shared a few of the lessons that we learned. And now we would like you to take some time to reflect on, what lessons have you learned throughout your sarcoma journey? So what we're going to do through the magic of Zoom is we are going to put you into small groups of 3 to 4, I guess it's 3 people in each group. We're going to try for that. And Zoom automatically does this distribution, so you don't have to worry about a thing. We're inviting you to introduce yourself to your group members and share your connection to sarcoma and maybe one lesson that you've learned from your sarcoma experience. You can certainly expand on any of the lessons that we shared with you a couple minutes ago, or share something else that you've learned along your path. Your group is going to have 12 minutes for discussion. That's about 3 to 4 minutes per person. And as we get closer to the 12 minutes, you'll get a message that says that the breakout session is ending, and then you'll automatically be brought back to the larger group. So welcome back, everybody. We're glad that that the technology worked and we can see your beautiful faces again. So welcome back. We are curious and eager to learn what lessons you shared from your sarcoma experience, and would invite you to just take a minute either to chat something or put something in the chat box, or if you would like to speak up, we'd love to hear your voice. So all you have to do is unmute yourself and tell us your name and just share something that you learned. And if you don't, we'll start calling on people. So it's to your advantage to just jump in and talk to us.
Well, I'll jump in, Lisa.
Okay.
It's Alan, and don't know why I'm not showing up on, oh, I don't know, maybe I still see Lisa. Anyway, it doesn't matter. One of the things that I learned, and I shared with Christine and Lisa, my little group, was that I went to my first winter gathering in 2009. Connie made me go. And one of the reasons I was against going was the fact that I was so beat up from the chemotherapy, the operation, the radiation, and I was feeling very sorry for myself until it came to the point of the program where Pete Wyckoff passed the microphone around and people told their stories. And when I heard other people's stories about the eighth person that spoke, it dawned on me that I was being over dramatic, and that compared to the stories I had already heard, my situation was much easier than theirs. And I told the group, and I've used this before, but there's a saying in the Old Testament that if 10 people sit around a campfire and they're going to throw their troubles in, by the time they hear the other 9 people's troubles, they take theirs back. And I remember that meeting. There was a woman who stood up and said, "I'm sorry, we've tried everything. I'm going to let God decide." And she was dead in 6 months. The person at my table had their leg amputated a couple months before, and they were gone in 3 months. So if you think you've got it bad, there are a lot of people that have it worse.
Thanks, Alan. It really is helpful to hear what you had to share. And sometimes I know I was guilty of putting together pity parties, and there's something very humbling about being in a community of people that are, we've got a lot of similarities. So thank you for that. I'm also seeing here in our chat box how animals, Janelle, thank you. Animals help to support us through.
So true.
That's really true. They just know the right things to do and they don't argue with us. Ruth Bachman says our group talked about the value of asking for and accepting help, as well as the value of exceptional medical professionals. That's for darn sure.
Giving people something to do by asking for help is really a gift for both. That was a big lesson. Yep, I agree.
Thank you. Amazing stories. Christine says it's powerful to hear how sarcoma continues to impact you. I've learned a lot about myself emotionally and spiritually. I've learned to accept help and to trust in God and his plan for me. So Katie says a tough lesson learned was you learn who your real friends are. Isn't that the truth?
Very true. It liberates you from the ones who are not your real friends.
Yeah. Michelle Epperson says, embrace every moment with loved ones. That's very, very powerful. And that's true. I think that it was Christine that talked in our group about how she was able to really embrace the simple things and appreciate more the simple things, like just sitting outside and listening to the birds chatter, or watching the garden grow. That kind of stuff was really helpful. Joe says fear and facing fear is an empowering step. Very true. Craig, talking to others about my journey was very therapeutic for me, and also having a good sense of humor. I agree. Jody, don't forget to love and help your kids. And love the help your kids give you. Perfect. So many good lessons, and likely what we're going to do with this is take these lessons and publish them more broadly to our sarcoma community, because I think it's anything that we can do to help our broader community see the love that we share with each other and just what's worked for us. And these are pretty simple things that we're talking about in terms of the lessons that we've learned. So thank you all for indulging us. And I'm going to turn it over to Michelle so she can share her story. Michelle?
Thanks, Lisa, and thanks everyone for sharing. I'm going to go back to where I left off, where I talked about attachments in the stories they tell. There's my beautiful Brett. Jan, recognize that face? Yep. So I'd like to talk about attachments in the stories they tell. So what do I mean by attachments? In the Buddhist tradition, it's said that attachment is the root of all suffering. In psychology, it's something that the mind grabs onto. So we come to see the object of attachment, whether it be tangible or intangible, as having intrinsic value in itself, independent of our relationship to it. It becomes a part of our identity. It's not the thing itself that causes suffering, it's the attachment to the thing. It's conditional. I have this, I'm happy. I don't have this, I'm unhappy. So let me give you an example, a simple example of an attachment to a physical object. So how about our cell phones? How attached are we all to our devices? Have you ever lost yours? I lost mine about a year ago. And let me tell you, there was some suffering. And now, I'm not talking about deep existential suffering here, but real anxiety for a couple of days. So put yourself in that place for just a second. Our cell phones have become such a part of our lives that they have become an extension of us, and losing it causes stress. I have my phone, I'm happy. I don't have my phone, I am unhappy. Joshua Fields Milburn, one half of the Minimalists, recently wrote, "Replace the word attachments with clinging. That small change exposes the flaw. Be it possessions or people or pride, clinging is not healthy. Every attachment is a tether that restricts our freedom. We can't fully love when we're confined by attachment." So now let's talk about examples of intangible attachments. More specifically, labels and how we come to identify with them. The labels we give ourselves, or maybe labels that others have given to us. Labels aren't inherently bad, they're just words. However, attachment to them may negatively, unconsciously, and unwittingly limit us from experiencing life to the fullest. Identifying with our labels can inhibit the ability to fully love unconditionally. How many of you have initials after your name? Or maybe a professional title that you identify with. You sign all your emails with it. Educational and professional labels are achievements earned after a lot of hard work, and they can become a huge part of our identities. How about political labels? What do the labels Democrat and Republican or liberal and conservative mean to you? What stories start being told in your heads? Again, that can become a huge part of our identities. How about religious labels such as Christian or Muslim or Catholic, atheist? What story do each of these labels tell when you encounter another person? Do you immediately dismiss or perhaps connect to that person because of that label. When that story starts, can you catch it and become aware of it? Get curious and ask where that story came from. Did it come from parents or school or church? Or is it part of the collective conscious? And if so, what made you take on that story as your own? Is it really yours? No matter what those labels are, you're always more than that. Becoming aware of the attachment is the beginning of letting go. And letting go is the opening to new possibilities and opportunities to love ourselves and others more deeply and unconditionally. So now let's bring this into our sarcoma world. Let's talk about the labels given to us with the diagnosis of sarcoma. Labels like patient, cancer victim, grieving parent, widow or widower. These labels quickly usurp any others we may have, including the ones we hold so dear, like mother, brother, sister, husband, daughter, father, or wife. Even the word survivor, which may seem positive at first glance, can be less than positive if it tethers you to the past, perhaps in a less empowered time. In my own experience, I carried the label widow like a protective cloak for a long time. When Brett died, the depth of the grief I felt was like nothing I had ever experienced before. In A Grief Observed, C.S. Lewis writes, "No one ever told me grief was so like fear." And that is so true. At least it was for me. I was raw and naked and bleeding with it. In those days, the label of widow gave me the protection I needed. It was my constant companion, and I embraced it gratefully in order to feel safe. It gave me the space I needed to heal. Then came a time when I began to notice the weight of the cloak was no longer bearable. It had become an obstacle I was constantly having to climb over and push out of my way. The label widow had become such a part of my identity that I no longer knew who I was as a person without it. I also knew in order to find out, I would need to let go. I remember standing on the deck of my home, Brett's home, with my dad. He was trying to talk me out of selling the house and moving. And I clearly remember saying to him, as long as I'm in this house, I'm Brett's widow, and I can't be that anymore. That began a process of shedding the label and all the ways it limited me. Layer by layer, exposing new parts of myself to the world and growing into a new skin. It was never easy, and at times it still isn't. But what I know now is that leaving behind the label did not diminish the love I had for my husband. In fact, the love actually grew and transformed into something bigger, because now I can use it and use what I learned to help others. So I'd like you to reflect on the sarcoma labels you may carry. Are they helping or hindering you? And there's no good or bad either. It just is what it is for you today. I'd like to invite you to join me in a short guided visualization exercise. Participation is completely optional, of course, but if you feel called, please close your eyes, take a deep breath, feel yourself sitting up tall, relax your face, relax your shoulders, feel your hands in your lap. Take one last deep breath. Send it to some place in your body where you might feel a little bit of tension, and just let go a little more. Now, visualize a label that may feel less than positive. Do you see it? Where is it? Is it attached to your body somewhere, perhaps? Take a deep breath and visualize what it would feel like to take that label off. Imagine you can see a big golden scissors in your hand. And if you'd like, I invite you to take the scissors and start snipping at the strings that keep that label attached, wherever it's attached. Can you clip all of those strings and visualize the label softly falling away from you? Or perhaps the scissors isn't able to cut through all the strings, maybe just a few, so its tether isn't quite so tight. Or perhaps the golden scissors can just trim the edges of the label in order to make it a little bit smaller. Now take another deep breath and notice what that feels like. Now take one more deep breath, and when you're ready, open your eyes and come back to the group. So thank you for participating, everyone, if you did. And now we have another opportunity to connect to each other. We're going to do another breakout room. And for this one, we would like you to reflect on attachments and any labels that you may carry. Are they helping you or are they hindering you? What are they? As we did with the previous breakout session, we are going to set up small groups again. It will be 3 or 4, and it should be different if I do it right. It should be different people in the rooms this time. Again, introduce yourself, share your connection to sarcoma, and one attachment or label that you carry with you. And does that label help you or hinder you right now? And if you did go through the visualization exercise, maybe share how that felt for you. Again, you will have 12 minutes. So keep an eye on the time and make sure everybody has an opportunity to talk. And at the end, I think you get like a little 10-second reminder. So it does cut off pretty quickly. And then when you come back from the small group again, we'd love to hear your insights. Welcome back, everyone. So how was that? Let's open it up again. We're eager to hear any insights that you may have had about attachments or labels, the labels that you may carry. Does anyone want to share anything?
Can jump in either verbally or you can jot something in the chat, whatever you feel comfortable in doing.
Yeah,
Great.
both Ellen and I mentioned that being a survivor that we are, and people looking for hope that when they are diagnosed, because it is a very fearful thought of being diagnosed with any type of cancer or disease. So, and so being a survivor at any amount of years, and offering hope to others who are newly diagnosed, was a label that we thought quite fondly of.
That's great. Yeah, you should be flying that flag, right?
I'm able to jump in. So one of some of the labels that have been really hard are hearing the labels of terminal, stage 4. You're going to have cancer for the rest of your life. You're going to have treatment the rest of your life. I mean, to hear that's terrifying. And I'm still here. I'm 3.5 years into treatments, and I'm still here. So I've already surpassed the original prognosis, which is good. And as I was sharing in my group, I just really want to shed the label of terminal. And so I'm prayerful. I've been prayerful throughout this whole thing, but even more so in the last year, I'm like, I want 2021 to be the year of NED, no evidence of disease. So I want to shed the label of terminal and embrace the label of NED. And hopefully I can embrace the label of remission someday too. So I'm just kind of switching my mental mindset and just trying not even to think about terminal anymore. I just don't want to have that attached to me anymore.
I love that. Thank you,
Chris she's always been just such an inspiration for us. And thank you so much for sharing that. That's really, really good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ruth shared our group was not opposed to using the label cancer survivor because we can be examples of living life after, through, and beyond a cancer diagnosis. I think that's what Alan and Craig were sharing too.
Yes.
Mimi says how sarcoma can't be a bad cancer if there is so little research on it. And Janelle, holding love and gratitude in your heart to overcome fear and empower ourselves. Yes. Well, thank you, everyone.
Oh,
Oops. Might want to mute everyone again. We're just going to finish up here. So we're coming to the close of our program. And before we end, we do want to share a few takeaways. And none of these takeaways or even the lessons we shared today, nothing is a silver bullet, nothing is magic. We're always looking for that one thing that's going to heal us and make us feel better. So likely you've heard some of these things before, or all of these things. But we offer them because we know that cumulatively they do work. And when you live these lessons actively in your life, it can create magic. So some of the takeaways: pay attention to your emotions, let yourself feel them and connect with your body. Be curious, and give yourself what you need. When you don't let yourself fully experience the hard emotions, then you also limit your access to joy.
Right.
Keep a journal. Lisa told us of her story of going back to her journal and really reflecting again on just all the abundance she's had in her life. I've started a practice called mind dump, where you just, when things are rattling around in your head, I have a note in my phone and I pick it up and I get it out of my head. And usually that's all it takes. And then it's not rattling around anymore, and it isn't important usually. Connect with loved ones. We need each other, and it's okay to ask for help. Nourish yourself. We've heard a lot about, put your mask on first. Nourish yourself and get good rest is vitally important and part of listening to your body and giving it what it needs. Spend time in nature. Nature is so powerful. There's so many studies on it. And it can take, if you're feeling having a really bad day, go out in nature, even if it's just in your yard, sit under a tree, give it to nature. Nature can transform it and heal you. It's really important. And connect with gratitude. You can't feel fear and gratitude at the same time. I remember even in the lowest, hardest times, Brett and I would talk about how lucky we were and all the things we were grateful for. And I carry that with me today. And of course, lastly, love and be loved unconditionally. Love is universal. It's an energy and it's contagious and it's a force. So share this gift freely and receive the gift freely.
We also wanted to share some recommended resources. So here are a few books and podcasts and TED Talks that Michelle and I have found to be really helpful throughout our journey. Well, throughout our whole lives, I think we've paid attention to these things. And just as a reminder, we included this particular slide as part of the handouts that Michelle sent out last week. So enjoy. This will keep you busy for a while. And then finally, we'd like to close with the final quote here from Anais Nin. And she said that, and the day will come when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. So wherever you are on your sarcoma journey can be scary and exciting both at the same time. And Michelle and I both agree that taking the risk to blossom has made all the difference in our lives. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We really do appreciate your participation. And we're going to stay on the line here for a few more minutes. If you'd have any questions or comments or just want to chat, we're here. Thanks, everyone.